Hey guys, how's it going? This is TUSDarryl again with another game review. Specifically, another game review that involves spraying graffiti onto walls, or screens in this case. And no, it's not Bomb Rush Cyberpunk this time. But I will get to that game later, and I really do mean later. But in the meantime, I wanted to play a game I didn't know much about, and by that I mean I saw one trailer and next thing I know the game is out. Not sure if this game was marketed all that well or all that heavily, or maybe I just didn't see a lot of that buzz. But either way around, today I wanted to talk about RKGK or Rakugaki. I'd roll my tongue on the R, but I can't do that, so shut up. The story of Rakugaki is not really the main focus here, but the gist is that you play as a rebellious young girl named Vala, and along with her robotic partner Ayo, I know, I wanted to call him Ao as well, as the two of them fight to take down Mr. Buff, a madman who designs screens all over the city to drain people's desire of self-expression, well, away from them. Spray can in hand, Vala uses her skills to block at these screens with impressive graffiti, and somehow beat the living shit out of robots with said spray cans. Not the cans, the stuff coming out of them. Are we sure that it's just the spray itself that's in those cans? Those things pack a punch for some reason. So, generally speaking, how do I feel about the game? It's alright. It's cool. The gameplay itself follows a lot of the things you expect from a platformer, which isn't a bad thing. But it does make the early levels a bit dull if you're used to that. Which is why I set the game's difficulty setting to retro rather than modern. There are two difficulty settings. Those two, retro and modern. Modern difficulty has a lot of the quality of life features you'd expect from a platformer today. For example, if you fall from a platform and die, you'll respawn on the previous platform you're on, so you can just get right back to it. It's the equivalent of tripping and being like, oh, let me try that again. But on retro difficulty, if you fall from that same platform and die, you'd respawn at the last checkpoint. It sounds punishing, and sometimes it is, but whenever I did fall in those rare times that I did, I enjoyed running back to where I left off because everything I've done up to that point was covered in graffiti. The graffiti doesn't go away until the level ends. So it's just nice seeing where I've been, what I did, and stuff like that. Speaking of graffiti, and I know this is going to sound obvious, but that has to be the best part of the game besides how fun it just is. Because the graffiti designs are really cool and literally pop off the large screens in each level. I was very surprised to see that. I could have sworn, well, not could have sworn, but I thought they would be 2D. You know, okay, I tagged this screen, cool, I can move on. Then I'm like, that kind of jumps out a little bit. I step to the side and I see like 3 layers of 3D models just poking out of that screen. I thought to myself, that is cool. That is not what I expected at all. But rounding back to the gameplay, the game can occasionally be kind of janky, but not so janky that it gets in the way of gameplay. Mostly camera stuff or stuff like I'm sliding under this thing, but I can't quite slide under there properly. I just need to move to the left or the right a little bit, so some collision issues. It was just a lot of stuff that demonstrated that this is Wabi Sabi's first game as a studio. I don't know if they've done anything else or if they've done bigger stuff individually, but together as one studio as Wabi Sabi for this being their first title that I could see, yeah, it checks out. The best parts are the boss fights, which aren't particularly difficult, and trust me, there are low points in those fights, but they are very different from one to the other, and some are pretty standout. My favorite personally is Sunflower Noodle.
What the hell is this?
What I will talk about really quick is the soundtrack. That was me reading, if you couldn't tell. My eyes are darting between like half my screen to read and the other half watching the Audacity just move through. Anyway, for me, the OST didn't have any truly standout tracks, and a lot of them kind of bleed together a little bit. But that doesn't mean that it didn't get me bobbing my head on occasion. Leaping all the way back to gameplay into another topic, another segment of gameplay, I just have to say that the levels themselves are a bit of a mixed bag. Almost every level has a gimmick, and some are cool, others fall flat for me. Some are very short, because the gimmick doesn't hinder the speed of your movement and the flow state too much. And others are too long for me because the gimmick hinders the flow that you're in. Which quite frankly, throws off my groove.
No! You threw off my groove!
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
Aesthetically though, I found some levels more appealing than others, but much like the soundtrack, a lot of them kind of bleed together a bit. And while I'm listing my general critiques here, I've just got to say I don't know if it's because I'm what the internet would consider old or what, but I can't get behind the dialogue in this game. It gives me the same vibes I had when I was in college playing Life is Strange. Of course, for that game and this game, I understand that the protagonist and her friends are like, what, in their teens, late teens or something, but the dialogue in this game doesn't really make me chuckle, but it also doesn't make me think any more or less of Vala and her friends. It's just meh. Now, I don't mean this as a slight at any of the writers or anybody at the studio, but I will say that it just kind of came off to me as my dad trying to write dialogue for someone my little brother's age or younger. Very hello, fellow kids. I too know the lingo. Riz, skibbity, yappin'. No one in this game talks like that. Don't worry. I'm just doing this to make you cringe. The only time I genuinely had a bit of a chuckle and a moment in the game where the dialogue wasn't trying to remind me of how young Vala is was when one of her friends had her listen to death metal for a moment. Just, hey, how's it going, my friend? Oh, hi, Vala. I'm just listening to this right now because this is my mood at the moment. Oh, cool. Let me hear. Puts on headphones. Now, the expressions of the 3D models in the visual novel style of the cutscenes that this game has are a mixed bag, but the way the scene progressed where she gradually got more and more uncomfortable was pretty funny. I'll admit that. And as someone who likes various forms of rock music and various forms of metal, my first time hearing a little bit of death metal, I also had that expression. I'm like, yeah, this ain't me. I'm sorry. This ain't me. Nah, you can keep that. Enjoy. But outside of that, the dialogue is very hammy and Saturday morning cartoonish. So your mileage will depend heavily on whether or not you like stuff like that. One more tidbit before I get to my final verdict. The game has customization, and honestly, some of the skins are pretty cool. It's not like you could change Vala's hairstyle or anything like that. It's mostly, again, just skins. No different than you would get in your average Borderlands skin. Not ones that would change her model drastically, just more like the shading, the color palettes, etc. There are even some references and color schemes to different pop culture characters that I won't spoil here, even though it's not really a big deal. I just thought it was cool to see who they were referencing in some of the color palettes they did. So if you play it, you'll be pleasantly surprised if you like anime and stuff like that. Actually, I will spoil the manga skin. That one is my favorite. Couldn't tell you a logical reason why, I just think it's really cool. But anyway, it's final verdict time. RKGK Rakugaki is a $20 game that can be completed in one sitting if you really wanted to, so about 3 to 5 hours. That didn't surprise me when I saw that on howlongtobeat.com when I was trying to decide what game to review next, because for a game like RKGK, it really benefits from repeating different levels to get a higher rank, a better score, 100% of the levels, getting everything you can, blah, 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 blah. You get the drill. So due to how much fun I had with the game and the price point it's at, I'll give RKGK a go for it. But if you really only want to play through it once, and $20 for what is ultimately a 3 to 5 hour experience is a little too steep for you, I'd recommend picking it up on a sale, or just I'll give it a caution in that case, if that's still something that you're like, I don't know, It's a good time overall, and I'm looking forward to whatever Wabi Sabi does next. And with that, this review is over. Look out for my next review where I start on a little journey through some shooters that have been collecting dust in my Steam library. So I hope you enjoyed your stay. I'm TUSDarryl. See you next time.